Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Didi Bhara Dhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Didi Bhara Dhari Jashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tiravannachari Jamuna Tiravannachari Jaya Rathamadava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajagacharya Ashtotara Shatashishimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Shila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki ISKCON Founder Acharya Shila Prabhupada Ki Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Nitai Gaura Premanandi. Oh, glory to the assembled devotees. Oh, glory to the assembled devotees. Oh, glory to the assembled devotees. Oh, glory to Shishi Guru and Shigoranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, the Summon Bonum, Chapter 66, Pandraka, the False Vasudev, text 27 to 29. Text 27. Shudakshinastasya sutta kritva shamsta vidim pate nihatya pritihantaram jasyamya pachitim pito. Shudakshina tasya sutta kritva shamsta vidim pate nihatya pritidhantaram jasyamya pachitim pito. Shudakshina tasya sutta kritva shamsta vidim pate nihatyapi trihantaram jasyamyapachitim pitu. Christian. Sudakshina tasya suta iti atma vishandhaya sopadhyayo maheshwaram Shudakshinorcharyam sa asa paramena samadina. Translation. After the king's son, Sudakshina, had performed the obligatory funeral rituals for his father, he resolved within his mind, quote, only by killing my father's murderer can I avenge his death. End of quote. Thus, the charitable Sudakshina, together with his priests, began to worship Lord Maheshwar with great attention. Purport. Srila Prabhupada writes, quote, the Lord of the kingdom of Kashi is Vishwanath, Lord Shiva. The temple of Lord Vishwanath is still existing in Varanasi, and many thousands of pilgrims still gather daily in that temple. Text 29. Pritu mukti bhagavans tasmai baram adat vibhu pitri hantri vadopayam sababre varam ipshitam. Translation. Satisfied by the powerful Lord Shiva appeared in the sacred prison of Abhimukta and offered Sudakshina his choice of benediction. The prince chose as his benediction a means to slay his father killer. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Ummilitam Jena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pesaya Bhutale Shrimate Romapada Swami Iti Namne Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatya Deshatarine Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. There is a purport on this last verse 29 by Srila Jiva Goswami and Srila Sanatana Goswami. They give us uh, a little entrance into Lord Shiva giving the benediction to the son of the king of Kashi to destroy Krishna. And, you know, Lord Shiva is the greatest devotee of Lord Krishna. Vaishnava Jata Sambhu. So, how is that he's agreeing to such a request for benediction? So, that doesn't make sense. So, our Vaishnavacharyas, they clarify this. It's very clever how Lord Shiva very expertly deals with this type of demons. So here's Srila Jiva Goswami sort of takes it for Srila Sanatana Goswami. Srila Sanatana Goswami elaborates a little further. So here's Srila Jiva Goswami. Shiva, also called Avimukta, was the presiding deity at the Tirtha. Thus, the place was called Avimukta. Vishnu Purana says, Avikute Mahakshetre Toshitas Tena Shankaraha. At Avimukta, Shiva became pleased with him. Because he was omniscient, Bhagavan, he gave a tricky benediction. So it's a tricky benediction. The son chose the boon of a method of killing him, not a boon of killing him. You got the difference? So Lord Shiva gave him this benediction. Here's a method by which you can kill, but not the benediction that here's a boon that you can kill Krishna. That's, so he had lost his intelligence at that time. So this son, Sudakshina, he didn't have much intelligence at that time due to, you know, demoniac qualities. So he wanted revenge. And when you are in this mood of anger, you don't think very straight, you know. So that went, okay, I got the method so I can kill him. Srila Sanatana Goswami elaborates similarly but a little further. Shiva, also called Avimukta, was the presiding deity of the Tirtha. Thus, at the place is called Avimukta, Vishnu Purana, so he was same thing. Another version has Avimukta. The Lord called Avimukta was pleased with him, or the Lord being independent, Avimukta, controlled by his devotee, was pleased with him. Because he was affectionate to his devotee, he gave a benediction. So here's an explanation. You know, there is worship and Lord Shiva being affectionate to this person and reciprocates and then give a benediction. However, it's not necessarily that he's going to give a benediction that that is going to create, some difficulty or something towards Krishna, or Lord Shiva participate necessarily in or being a participant on, offending or attacking or disregarding Lord Krishna. Not like that. But Lord Shiva, very much like we have heard in other previous pastimes, that he is very much in tune with Krishna's pastimes. We heard recently during the killing of personalities like Banasura and like that, who were protected by Lord Krishna, by Lord Shiva. And Lord Shiva, even on behalf of these demons, fought with Lord Krishna. But although he was fighting, although he's doing these things, his mood is to glorify Krishna. So we got all that explanation of Lord Shiva's, relationship with Krishna. So, or because he was omniscient, Bhagavan, knowing that opposite effect of his boon, Shiva gave the boon because he was the best devotee, Bhava instead of Vibhu. Or because he was omniscient, he gave a tricky boon acting against persons inimical to Brahmanas. He gave a method of killing only, but not the actual killing. It's nice. So, um, we hear this picture of, I thought, because in hearing this pastime now, you have a particular personality, Pondraka, who, through his influence and his position of a leader of men, he, by his choice and by his qualities, he is causing the destruction of everyone who's following him. He caused the destruction of his own army and his own followers. He caused the destruction of the king of Kashi who was connected to him. Of all the armies of the king of Kashi, and the citizen of Kashi also will be destroyed, including his son, who was also this, the second or the next leader after his father. They all will be destroyed. Just as we hear at the pastime in the introduction of this chapter, that is going to resolve with the burn down of the whole city. Everything will be destroyed. So there is consequences. There's consequences not only of the leader, but it's consequences of all the ones who are following and connected to this leader. There's a very um, there's a very nice verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the pastimes in which Lord Indra, he realized that because of his being overcome by power, by pride, he lost his capacity and the vision and the intelligence and the understanding of important um, how would you say, ethical choices. And he realized when he made this mistake, and the mistake has very dire consequences for the whole heavenly kingdom. The mistake that he made, but he was so absorbed in one occasion. This is it's narrated in the sixth canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, when Lord Indra offends his spiritual master Brihaspati. And the result of that is that the kingdom of heaven became vulnerable by that offense and was conquered by demoniac forces. So the circumstances that Indra was absorbing his power and his opulence, that when his spiritual master entered into the arena, into the hall, he just completely didn't even notice. He didn't offer any respect. He didn't stop his his affairs and things like that. He completely disregarded his spiritual master. And as a result, Brihaspati, he left and left the kingdom of heaven. And when Indra realized, it, for Indra's credit, he realized a mistake that he made, and he offered these prayers that are very instructive. He says, this is in the 6th canto, chapter 7, text number 14, that describes Lord Indra's offense to Brihaspati. Leaders who have fallen into ignorance and who misled people by directing them to the path of destruction are, in effect, boarding a stone boat, and so too are those who blindly follow them. A stone boat would be unable to float and will sink in the water with its passengers. Similarly, those who misled people go to hell, and their followers go with them. So, the consequences of having unqualified bad leaders is big. It's a big thing. And the question is, well, you can understand that there is certain psychology that is there in conditioned souls that make them very much attracted to this strong man. Usually they're considered like that. There's a strong, the biggest dog that is the strongest one becomes the alpha of the the herd, and they're the one who control. And then the smaller or the weaker ones, they naturally tend to follow the alpha, the stronger, the strong man, the ones that declare strongly and have all these, the loud and all these things. Some that they display their their opulence. They have some type of opulence, either of a strength, of wealth, and also with that opulence, they manage to have a lot of influence. So people follow and naturally follow. Why? What is the psychology? Prahlad Maharaj, he explains that in the famous verse, Nate vidhut swarta gatam hi visnum, that this durasaja, je bahir artamanina, durasaja means these conditioned souls that are so focused on enjoying the material world. So when you are in the verse, Prahlad Maharaj, this is Prahlad Maharaj telling Hiranyakashipu. This is in, 5-year-old Prahlad Maharaj facing the most powerful demon, arguably in the history of this cosmic time, this universe, telling telling him that actually these Durashaya people who are so absorbed in materialistic consciousness, they really don't know what is the beneficial, the ultimate beneficial purpose of life, the Swarta Gatim. They don't know that the ultimate benefit is their relationship with the Supreme Lord. And the ultimate goal is to go back home, back to God. They don't know that because the, their minds are tamanina. What they consider in their mind to be valuable is simply enjoying the external objects of the senses. Bahir means external. All these external things. We just focus on external stuff. And then when you are conditioned like that, what happens? Then anda yadan dair upani yamananas. That one follows a blind leader. One becomes attached to a blind leader. So one is blind by these material conceptions, and naturally one chooses a blind leader like us, or like conditioned souls, and you follow. And what happens? That following is leads you to hell, basically. So, as a blind mind guided by another blind mind meets the right path and falls into a ditch, materially attached man, led by another materially attached man, are bound by the ropes of fruitive labor, which are made of very strong cords. And they continue again and again in materialistic life, suffering the threefold miseries. So, there is this very common situation that you see in places that are led by unqualified leaders. That there are people who almost like a religion worship such unqualified people as their leaders. They blindly accept and they follow blindly. But there's a whole group that are at the receiving end of leaders that, because of having this disqualification and these demoniac tendencies, that becomes almost like um, nourished by power, then they are in the receiving end of abuse. But even though feeling unhappy about the situation, you remain silent, passive. You don't do anything. You don't confront. You don't say. You don't stand for yourself or for others. But you accept and you remain in a situation almost in a helpless condition. That's a phenomenon that is very common in situations in which you have one of these unqualified leaders almost like forcing a whole society to follow. And at the end, you see the results of that. That is a whole, it's almost like a group karma that you have to go through of all kinds of different miseries, the threefold miseries. Miseries caused by nature, we see. Like right now, the world is being harassed by Mother Nature who is, eh, sending all kinds of natural disasters. People attribute it to this um, climate change. But the fact is that climate change is nothing but the result of demoniac leaders exploiting and trying to abuse material nature for their own selfish purposes. And the result of that is that societies follow, that type of leaders, and here's the result. Then now we have this completely devastating forces of nature that comes in the forms of hurricanes, cyclones, tsunamis, fires, all, droughts, all kinds of things. Uh, how you say, volcanoes. I mean, you hear earthquakes over and over and over. You know, destroying places completely, taking many lives. So misery is caused by nature. Misery is caused by other human beings or other living entities. And we see wars that are happening. We see crimes. We see all kinds of terrible things happening in the world. People just out of frustration and anger just chooses to go into some place in which people are innocently entertaining themselves and they start to kill them, in a mass shooting or something like that. And then you have miseries caused by your own body and mind. Is to say how much diseases are increasing, and and what to speak of body disease, emotional and mental diseases are harassing humanity. So all these things are being uh, flourishing because of bad leadership. Bad leadership creates a toxic environment in which, in a toxic environment, things cannot flourish, but things becomes contaminated and and sort of perishes. So it's a big thing. Here's some descriptions in which psychologists, they analyze the nature of this toxic, bad leadership. And this is a couple of scholars that wrote this book that is very much, it has been widely accepted, in which they explain the research. The book is called The Leadership Killer: Reclaiming Humility in an Age of Arrogance. And then they explain the dangers of bad leadership and how one can protect oneself about it. So they said that there are 6 repercussions of bad leadership. In one sense, bad leadership affects or corrupts the mission of, the whatever group, institution, country, all that. It says mission. The best leaders intentionally pursue worthy goals. Bad leaders prioritize their own goals over the organization. Affects the morale. Success depends on positive employee morale. Bad leaders wreck morale, and they generate an environment in which their followers feel as if they exist to simply act or react to the chaotic whims of their leaders. It affects performance. Individuals simply don't work hard for leaders they don't trust or respect. It affects loyalty. Bad leaders are only loyal to themselves, and they fail to build any source of enduring loyalty amongst their followers. Ethics. Toxic leaders are unethical and unprincipled. Their dishonesty can infect an organization like a virus and lead to a corrupt culture. Reputation. Strong leaders are respected, loyal to the organization, and faithful to their employees. Bad leaders are selfish and in time develop poor reputation for not only themselves but the organization too. And then there is another research um, that tells um, this is, you know, it is a research that took into consideration dozens of fellow researchers who study, you know, who make a study of these um, situations with leadership. Neuroscientists, one of the things that they try to explain is why do we attach ourselves to bad leaders? Prahlad Maharaj explained it, but materialistic people are sort of, trying to find out, what is this phenomena that people, attach themselves to bad leaders, and what is the psychology of that, and or you simply become passive and helpless in, around bad leaders, and you know they put it like this. Neuroscientists who run experiments of what power does to your brain chemistry. Evolutionary biologists who explore why humans are so often drawn to the wrong kinds of leader. Psychologists who can get Psychologists who can get enough of narcissistic psychopath. So they conclude that there are three big problems. The first one is that power is magnetic to corruptible people. It's like a magnet for people that are very easily to corrupt. The worst kind of people are drawn to gaining authority over others. That's especially true for people with a particular destructive psychological cocktail known as the dark triad: Machiavellism, Machiavellianism, narcissism, and psychopathy. Quite something, no? The second one is that power does tend to corrupt. That there's a danger in having power, because when you have powers over others, you're very easily corrupted. Just recently, when uh, uh, listening to the narration of the story of Yamuna Devi, she narrates, from her perspective, what she observed during the Sonalacharya thing. And she was very close to the first one who fell down of the 11 Sonalacharya gurus was Jayatirtha. And she had a very close relationship with him because he was a dedicated leader of Srila Prabhupada. Very gentle, very thoughtful, and especially very expert. He was married to a wonderful devotee, and he had a wonderful son, and he had this very close relationship with different devotees that really appreciated him. And when he was elevated during the Acharya, the Sonal Acharya thing, then he just went, he just changed and landed, in a very, very crazy deviation. And at the end, he was murdered by one of his followers, beheaded. So, so power corrupts. And the third one is that power is relational, that power needs followers. And therefore, um, I read what they put here. It's very insightful. We give power to the wrong people for the wrong reasons. Power is relational. You can't be a leader without followers. We might wish to forget it, but many of the leaders we lost most were elected by our fellow citizens. From Hitler to Papa Doc Duvalier to Hugo Chavez, Rodrigo Duarte, and Vladimir Putin. There are complicated reasons why we're seduced by charlatans and strongmen with roots in the ancient past of our species. Evolutionary psychologists argue that our brains haven't evolved much since the Stone Age, when we follow an overconfident strongman hunter may have been a good idea. Our societies have changed radically and no longer a smart strategy, our brain having caught up. So, they have a materialistic explanation, but the fact is that, is how Srila Prahlad Maharaj put it, that because we also emerge in ignorance, we choose a bigger ignorance. Prabhupada puts it like that. I think there's a verse also um, um, that explains that we choose in a society of hawks, camels, and asses, we choose, one of such as our leader, like that. So it's the society of the cheated and the cheater. So, and the result of that is a great deal of misery and difficulties. So I'm going to stop because it's time. But just analyze, just thinking as we're going to hear in the following verses, how the consequences that it have for even the innocent but passive citizens of the city of Kashi, how they're going to suffer the consequences of being attached to a bad leader. The fact is that um, one's still responsible for the choice that we made to 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 be passive and not to try to um, you know speak out about this uh, um, situations that are leading others or society to destruction like that. So anyway, some thoughts on that.
Um, since you touched a lot on the particular choice that a population may make for a particular leader, and then the analysis, I mean, at least Prahlad Maharaj um, yeah, anyway, he was pointing to the choice being made by persons, and then contemporary um, experts in mental functioning um, have analyzed it that the particular leaders that are chosen, when chosen by the populace, tend to be persons with, um, lack of mental equilibrium, or particularly fueled by, um, from the Vedic perspective, you could say self-interest. So, if you actually put, like the labels that were put were persons with, you know, uh, some, you could say pathology even. Um, so I was just thinking about this fact. Uh, it means that there's actually, um, the situation that then happens is one that the leader is uh, distant from the populace, or because that's part of the mentality they bring in, the psychosis. I don't know if I should say psychosis, but there's some pathology that they're bringing, and it's uh, and then the effect on the people is also one of being very passive. So it's such a extremely unhealthy situation.
Yes, toxic.
Such an unhealthy situation. I mean, because even if one, and the facts that persons with those mental difficulties are the ones who actually push themselves into the leadership position, or again, there's this idea that persons are choosing such a person. It's uh, it seems that the criteria are not clear for what qualities a leader should have, but it seems a fundamental one, just based on this analysis that you were reading, is that the leader has to have the capacity to empathize with the population and the needs of the populace, and be able to think very clearly how to benefit, or make arrangements that benefit and allow for the upliftment of the population. So that would have to be a very important criterion. And it seems the criterion is more on external appearance.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all centered on the personal interest of the leaders, and it can be, extended to those who are with the leader, and it becomes, this very exclusive type of arrangement, and obviously, um, in a world that is full of diversity, is is a very failing type of system. And then when you have exclusivity like that, and you top that with people that are highly disqualified with demoniac propensities, then the natural sort of dealings are filled with, these they describe behaviors that are attached to this type of bad leaders, which include intimidation, bullying, misrepresenting facts, rejecting input from employees, retaliation, blaming others, dishonesty, deceit, anger. So the whole organizational climate is full of toxicity. And so, and then there's something that is quite something, is quite also that they describe here, that although people feel unhappy about it, and they don't confront the situation, you know they speak among in the intimate circles about, how much they hate the situation, but they won't act against it. And in one sense, one of the reasoning that he gave is that, you know if we have this bad, if this one is not there, there's a possibility that a worse one will come in. So at least we know what we have, so people get settled in a particular status quo, and then that's it. You know, you don't want to risk unknown situations, like that. So it's a big thing. And there's a very interesting that they ask, how can we replace, a corrupt or a bad leadership, ruling class? Uh, then the answer that they give lies in tweaking the system that governs our society. So it's all about, focusing on reassessing and changing our organizational systems. That are that you reassess what are things that are important. What are the principles and the values underneath, the systems, and you start to build it from that. So you have to. So in other words, they say system matters. It matters because the system is explained that, that big Shinarapa's Swami gave, that there's a iceberg. So in the bottom there are the values and the principles, and then over that there's the systems, and over that, which is the tip of the iceberg, is the behaviors. So when you start to address the systems and change the systems based on the values and then the behaviors would change. So system matters. So you have to start to go at that.
Why the choices made for a very unhealthy individual? I mean, what is the belief or the value that is driving the populace to choose a particularly psychologically unhealthy individual? I mean, what is the value, the external appearance of strength?
Yes. That's, you know, they say that it's, you know, like they say, it's a little bit of a backward type of, you know, a primitive type of mindset that the strongest of the hunters, you know, the strongest one, the alpha one, is the one who will lead you. And, you know, the ones which shows more influence or more power or more strength or like that, wealth, these opulences, you know, that creates influence, makes people follow. And and then in one sense, you know, if you see in themselves your what is important for you, you know, so people who are following, you know, this ex-president, you know, they feel that, you know, their values as, you know, the white American will be protected, things like that. And he is our champion. One of the comedians, you know, they interviewed, they say in this story that he is interviewing, discussing with this woman who is, you know, a follower of this ex-president. And then she says, well, that she only can trust, you know, she trusts this person, and because you know, he is a straightforward like that. So and he doesn't hide anything, and if he hides things, then, you know, that's not worthy of trust. And then these guys say, well, so when you say hiding things, you mean that if someone is uh, asking people not to say, you know, not to reveal anything of the things that had happened, you know, in order to hide the corruption, um, then that's disqualified. And the woman said, yes, yes, that, you know, I won't trust that. And he said, well, are you aware that, you know, this person is asking this um, staff member and this and that not to say this and not to say that and not to speak to this? And the woman goes, you know, silent when she realized, oh. And then after a little bit, she say, well, I don't really care about it. I still trust him. So it comes to that. It almost comes, you know, to a cultish of personality, because you need that psychologically. You need a leader. You need, you know, someone that you can surrender yourself to. It's just part of the nature of the soul. The thing is that you're placing that faith on a bigger dog, a bigger camel, and a bigger hawk. So that's the psychology. Anyway, Jai. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki